Before Cardi B or Nicki Minaj, there were three bold voices: Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella. Together, they broke every rule and became the most iconic female group in hip-hop. This is the story of Salt-N-Pepa, how they rose from college friends to queens of the mic. In the mid-1980s, two young women named Cheryl James and Sandra Denton met while studying nursing at Queensborough Community College in New York. Though they were training for careers in healthcare, their real passion was music. Cheryl, with her calm and thoughtful nature, would become known as Salt. Sandra, more outspoken and full of energy, became Pepa. From the beginning, their bond was strong, not just as friends, but as women who had something to say. They loved hip-hop, and they weren't afraid to express their thoughts through rhythm and rhyme. Their shared ambition and creative spark made them stand out, even in a crowded city full of dreamers. Their journey into music truly began thanks to a classmate and friend named Herbie Azor, who was also Cheryl's boyfriend at the time. Herbie was a budding music producer, looking for fresh talent to help with a school project. He invited Cheryl and Sandra to record a track he was working on. That song was called The Showstopper, a playful and bold response to Dougie Fresh's The Show. What started as a college experiment quickly turned into something much bigger. The track caught attention on local radio stations, and audiences loved it. It was raw, fun, and full of personality, just like Salt-N-Pepa themselves. The unexpected success of The Showstopper marked the beginning of something iconic. The duo adopted the name Salt-N-Pepa and dove headfirst into the music industry. They brought a fresh voice to hip-hop, one that was female, confident, and unfiltered. At a time when the rap scene was dominated by men, they dared to be different. They used their music not just to entertain, but to speak out, challenge norms, and empower women. From a simple recording for a school assignment, Salt-N-Pepa would go on to become pioneers, changing the face of hip-hop forever. Their first album, Hot, Cool, and Vicious, came out, and it was hot. The single Push It exploded. It wasn't just a hit, it was history. The song went platinum, and Salt-N-Pepa became the first female rap act to go gold and platinum. They weren't just making music, they were breaking barriers. Their rhymes were bold, clever, and full of energy. They talked about real topics: relationships, sex, and independence. Things most artists were afraid to say out loud. In 1987, a young DJ named Deidre Roper stepped into the spotlight and officially joined Salt-N-Pepa. Known to the world as Spinderella, she brought a new dimension to the group's sound and image. As the group's official DJ, Spinderella added sharp skills, rhythm, and stage presence that perfectly complemented Salt-N-Pepa's dynamic energy. With her spinning the records, their live performances reached a whole new level. The trio's chemistry on stage became something special, electric, effortless, and unforgettable. They weren't just performers, they were a force. Audiences could feel the connection between them, and that energy turned every show into an event. Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella created more than hits. They created a movement. Fans connected deeply with their fearless attitude and unshakable confidence. Whether it was on stage, on the radio, or in music videos, their voices rang loud and clear. They weren't afraid to have fun, to be bold, or to challenge expectations. They made it clear that women could lead in hip-hop, not just as backup or decoration, but as stars in their own right. And in doing so, they inspired a generation. Following their rise, Salt-N-Pepa delivered a string of unforgettable hits that not only climbed the charts, but also sparked important conversations. Let's Talk About Sex wasn't just a fun, danceable track. It was fearless. The song addressed topics like consent and sexual health in a time when such issues were rarely discussed openly in music. It challenged taboos and encouraged people to speak honestly. Then came Shoop, with its playful confidence, What a Man, a powerful anthem celebrating good men and none of your business. A fierce declaration of independence. Each release carried more boldness, more energy, and a louder voice for women who wanted to take control of their own narratives. None of Your Business would go on to win them a Grammy Award. an achievement that marked a turning point in music history. This wasn't just a win for Salt-N-Pepa, it was a win for all women in hip-hop who had long been overlooked. Their music was stylish, their visuals were fresh, and their performances were magnetic. They weren't just making records, they were setting trends and starting movements. Fans around the world connected with their honesty, their humor, and their strengths. Their music brought people together, their message made people think, and their presence changed the game forever. But with all their success came the weight of fame, a pressure that slowly began to affect the group from within. The constant touring, public attention, and creative differences started to pull them in different directions. Salt, who had grown more spiritual and introspective, longed for a quieter life away from the spotlight. Pepa, on the other hand, still thrived on the energy of the stage and the crowds. Meanwhile, Spinderella often felt like an outsider, her contributions sometimes overlooked despite being a crucial part of the group. By the early 2000s, the cracks could no longer be ignored. Tensions built up, communication broke down, and eventually, Salt-N-Pepa decided to go their separate ways. Fans were heartbroken, but the trio knew they needed space to heal and grow. Yet, as time passed, the bond between Salt-N-Pepa proved stronger than the distance that had formed between them. Years later, they reunited, not for money, not for fame, but for the music and the fans who never stopped loving them. They returned to the stage, older, wiser, but just as powerful. Their shows brought back all the energy of the past, with the same catchy beats and fearless messages. Whether it was a throwback performance or a fresh tour, their presence reignited the spirit of their early years. What made their comeback so meaningful wasn't just the music, it was the message. Even after decades, Salt-N-Pepa still stood for female empowerment, bold expression, and staying true to yourself. They reminded the world that real voices don't fade, they echo through generations. Their legacy was no longer just about the hits they made, but about the impact they left behind. Through every beat, every rhyme, and every performance, they proved that their story, like their music, was timeless. Salt-N-Pepa opened doors. They showed that women could rap, rule, and redefine the game. Today, female artists everywhere walk on the path they built. In 2021, their story was told in a biopic. The world watched how two girls from Queens became legends. Not because they followed rules, but because they broke them. Salt-N-Pepa didn't just make music, they made history. And in every beat, every rhyme, every bold move, they reminded us, speak loud, stand tall, and never let anyone silence your voice. Push It beat fades in. Screen shows photos of the trio through the years. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories behind the music. This is hip hop. This is Salt-N-Pepa.